Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Inside LoRaWAN Certification Testing, Why Authorized Test Labs Matter. I am Nisha Bhaskaran and I'm the Director of Certification at the LoRa Alliance. I'll be your host for today's session. We're really glad to see so many of you joining us for what should be a very informative discussion about the role certification testing plays in successful LoRaWAN device deployments. Before we dive in, I'll quickly cover a few housekeeping notes. First, you're welcome to submit questions at any point during the webinar using the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. We encourage you to add them as they come to mind, and our speakers will address as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end. Second, this session is being recorded and will be available on demand afterwards in the resource library on the LoRa Alliance website. And finally, today's slide deck and any additional resources related to the session can be found in the resources section at the bottom of your screen. Now, for those of you who may not be LoRa Alliance members or currently active in the LoRaWAN ecosystem, I'd like to briefly touch on who we are and what we do. The LoRa Alliance is a global, open, non-profit association that was launched in 2015 to support the development and adoption of the LoRaWAN standard. Our mission is to develop and maintain the LoRaWAN specification, drive global interoperability, and help scale the ecosystem for low-power, wide-area IoT networks. Beyond maintaining the specification itself, the Alliance also works to educate the market about LoRaWAN technology, support real-world deployments across industries, and operate the LoRaWAN certification program to ensure devices meet the standards required for reliable, interoperable operation across networks worldwide. And that certification program is really the focus of today's discussion. The LoRaWAN certification program helps ensure that devices implementing the LoRaWAN protocol comply with the specifications listed here and perform reliably in real-world network environments. Certification validates that a device behaves correctly with LoRaWAN networks, which helps maintain interoperability across the ecosystem and gives network operators, customers, and solution providers greater confidence when deploying certified devices. For manufacturers, certification is also an important step towards market acceptance. It helps demonstrate that devices have been independently validated against the LoRaWAN standard and tested for performance and compliance before being deployed at scale. A key part of that process involves working with Authorized Test Labs or ATLs. ATLs are specialized laboratories approved by the LoRa Alliance to conduct official certification testing. These labs have the equipment, expertise, and processes required to validate that devices meet the LoRaWAN certification requirements. LoRa Alliance approved self-test labs can be used to certify devices for the mandatory LoRaWAN specifications. However, only ATLs are allowed to perform LoRaWAN optional feature and RF performance certification. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by experts from 3 of the Alliance's authorized test labs. Next slide. DEKRA, IMST, and 7 Layers, which is part of Bureau Veritas. Each of these organizations has extensive experience supporting device manufacturers through the certification process, including RF performance validation, regulatory testing, and helping ensure devices meet both LoRaWAN and regional compliance requirements. Our speakers will share insights from their work with manufacturers, including some of the common issues uncovered during testing. However, how certification testing helps reduce risk before devices reach the market, and how manufacturers approach certification across regions like North America and Europe. Before we hand things over to our first speaker, I'd also like to briefly touch on why many manufacturers choose to work with an ATL rather than pursuing self-testing. One of the main advantages to access is the access to specialized RF testing capabilities. LoRaWAN performance depends heavily on radio behavior, and testing in a controlled laboratory environment allows engineers to identify potential issues early in the development process. ATLs also have deep familiarity with optional LoRaWAN features and certification requirements, which can help streamline testing and avoid unexpected delays during certification. And finally, labs, due to their extensive experience, can provide guidance when adjustments are needed, whether that involves firmware updates, configuration changes, or other modifications to help devices successfully pass certification in reduced time. All of this helps manufacturers reduce risk, avoid costly redesigns, and ultimately bring reliable LoRaWAN devices to market faster. With that, I'll now hand it over to our first speaker, Juan Manuel Gomez from DEKRA, who will kick off the presentation portion of the webinar.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for the transition and the presentation. This is Juanma, and I'm in charge of Bluetooth and LoRa Alliance lab at DEKRA. Nice to collaborate with you in this webinar about the importance of the Authorized Test Lab, ATLs, in the LoRaWAN certifications. Next slide, please. The OTA measurements define how a device radiates and receives signal in an environment that simulates free space. The RF performance testing provides the radiation pattern obtained on the device that show how is the transmission and the reception of the device regarding to the LoRa network. RF antenna performance is critical for the final efficiency of the device once it is included in the LoRa network. This testing is also critical and very important for the operators to know if it's stable or not to include the device in their LoRa network. Next slide, please. The basic OTA measurement system includes an OTA fully anechoic chamber, a multi-axis positioner to rotate the device on different angles against the antenna measurement, a dual polarized antenna, link antennas to remain stable and to command the device, an spectroanalyzer to measure the output power of the device, a gateway to simulate the base station, a network analyzer for the antenna characterization and for the system calibration, and the measurement software that we call LP1 for control and for automatic measurement. Next, please. The total radiative power, TRP, is a figure that shows us how is the output power of the device that is based on the device EIRP measurement on each different position that we rotate the device in all the angles in the anechoic chamber. Here you can see the equation to obtain the TRP measurement. Next, please. The total isotropic sensitivity, TIS, is measured a little bit different than the TRP that we see on the previous slide. The device is rotated along theta and phi axis until the angle and the polarization that we have selected has the best IRP measured previously. And then we perform the EIS effective isotropic sensitivity measurement on that polarization and position. After that, with the following equation, we obtain the EIS on the different position, and finally, we calculate the TIS figure, the total isotropic sensitivity. So basically, we need to perform previously the TRP measurement in order to be able to obtain the TIS. Next, please. The green area represents the max output power levels of the device. The blue area represents the minimum signal power level to establish the connection with the base station. The device needs to be able to have an output power level to connect with the base station, having a good sensitivity This is a good TIS to be able to receive the base station signal. Next. The Solution Pro LP1 is the software developed by DEKRA to perform the RF test. It is a modular software and hardware architecture. It supports RF performance of version 1.0.2 and version 1.0.4. It allows automatic text execution, parameter addition through graphic user interface, and it is easy and very friendly to check the test result and the test verdict. Next, please. DEKRA Solution Pro Radio Regulatory Database is a powerful online database service, which includes RF regulatory and approval requirements in over 226 countries, across plus 20 wireless technologies and plus 260 frequency bands. It contains regulatory information on LP1 technology across the frequency bands 433 MHz, 868 MHz, and 915 MHz. It provides access to applicable technical regulation, public testing standards, and certification requirements. The database is updated through continuous research and with the support of a large number of local partners, providing accurate information during planning of the regulatory activities, facilitating a smooth launch of any product with embedded radio technologies. We also have the regulatory radio regulatory newsletter service, which provides monthly regulatory updates on type approval of RF devices and related technical requirements, covering technologies such as LP1, among others. We have anticipate regulatory shift, align certification strategies with product roadmaps, and manage end-to-end type approval processes to support timely and efficient market access. Next, please. This powerful tool can save a lot of time and resources to companies competing in a dynamic global market. Since we can support both the RF product design phase and its launch to market. DEKRA supports multiple technologies and alliances. For LoRaWAN, all requirements are consolidated into a Solution Pro 1 regulatory database and provided with our IMST, radio frequency, and electrical safety testing services. Next, please. There are some benefits to performing the certification through the ATL. Confidence that the device is compliant with the LoRaWAN specification. Objectivity, independence, and impartiality. Allow carrying the LoRaWAN certified mark of quality. LoRaWAN certified device have priority in LoRa Alliance promotional marketing, and it's mandatory to execute the optional feature, quota, relay, chip, and RF performance in the ATL labs. And there are other benefits to certify at DEKRA. Experience, because we are the LCTT tool manufacturer, and we handling a big amount of certification per year. DEKRA also has the ISO 17025 accreditation. And one stop. If necessary, DEKRA provides other certification program and testing services as regulatory, type approval, IMST, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Matter, NFC, mobile, etc. Next slide, please. As indicated in the PMD document, the optional features are mandatory to be executed in the ATL labs. These optional features are indicated here. Quota means firmware update over the air. Quota allow firmware updates on end devices with a long life cycle in unreachable location without physical access. Relay allow a LoRaWAN device to has a relay for other end devices. This is used to increase the distance in a LoRa network. And chip is a mechanism designed to transmit IP version 6 traffic over LoRaWAN. It provides header compression and fragmentation. Next slide, please. And here currently there are 5 ATL labs in the world. In DEKRA US, DEKRA Brazil, DEKRA Taiwan, DEKRA Japan, and DEKRA Spain. I'm located in DEKRA Spain. Next. So that's all from my side. So I think I was fast, but I hope you got most of this. I pass the control to Jens. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nisha. Thanks, Johan, for handing over to me. My name is Jens Lerner from IMST in Germany, and like to welcome everybody here to this webinar session. My part here is to cover a little bit about regulatory product approval requirements and all connected tasks and responsibilities. Next slide, please. My contact is here on the right-hand side. A little bit about the agenda here of my presentation. I give a short company profile, followed by the products that we develop in the LoRaWAN ecosystem. Then I will show you a little bit about the product approval schemes. So we will see it on a global map, what differences we have. Then requirements and responsibilities in that ecosystem. Then a little bit about regulatory product testing, what kind of testing we have, and why testing and what is tested. Then product certification regional differences. There will be a comparison about FCC and CE, so the European and American way of product certification. Then how to handle product changes. That's a little bit practical information and typical what we see day to day in our laboratory business. And yeah, a little bit of hints and tips and common pitfalls. Okay, next slide, please. IMST is located in western part of Germany, about 40 kilometers north of Düsseldorf in Kamp Lindfort. We are 150 employees in the areas of testing and measurement services. That's the lab part where I'm head of. Besides that, we have wireless solution design. So that is colleagues developing LoRa and other radio solutions, antenna design, antenna simulation, optimization, as well as circuit and PCB design that we have. So we offer these services to our customers, as well as we use the testing capabilities that we have for external as well as internal purposes for research and development. Next slide, please. This is a little bit the history when it comes to the LoRaWAN products that we have released so far. It started already in 2013 with the world's first LoRa module issued. 2015, we became first LoRa Authorized Test Lab and had a LoRa concentrator issued that year. 2017, we had a first FCC certified LoRaWAN module. 2018, we entered the 2.4 gigahertz frequency domain with a LoRa radio module. And 2020, we had a wireless M-bus range extender and entered the metering sector and business with our products. 2021, we had the IOCA 868 product. So that is reading metering data, transmitting to the range extender or any other IoT device. In last year, we had a multi-region radio module. This is because of customers demanding for. So that is Europe as well as US or other regions. So it's multi-frequency, multi-region possibilities. So, and we had a sniffer for LoRaWAN or wireless M-bus transmission. So yeah, next slide, please. Now coming to the main topic here, product approval schemes. So we have a global map here, and starting in the west, so in the northern part of America, in the US, we have FCC. So the regulatory body there, Federal Communications Commission, FCC, also as some of South America countries, we have FCC. Over the Atlantic, coming to Europe, we have the CE, Conformity European. And as you can see, there's countries further down to Africa, India, Mongolia. So we have some more CE applying countries here, as well as you can see in green, there is also red applied regulatory, but national or country specific things besides Europe. Then you have also mixtures of red or CE and FCC, as well as national specifics like Canada, I said, or also within Europe. As far as you can see from regional perspective, UK, since they left the EU, they have a country specific UKCA approval scheme there. And then you have also a mixture of red, FCC, and national when it comes to Australia. But all the labs and colleagues from different labs will help and support when it comes to what regional requirements and how to apply the different rules to your products and how to prove conformity. So to the right-hand side, you can see already all the regulatory bodies and the namings. Next slide, please. And here, this is the ecosystem of all the stakeholders within the product approval. Some are really visible here, like manufacturers, test house, but all the others are in the background and very important because they define the rules and need to be taken into account when it comes to the product approval. Starting here with regional regulation bodies, like we have seen already, FCC or CE amongst the biggest regions here. They are responsible for frequency and spectrum management on regional level. So what application is allowed to use what frequency? So you have licensed frequency or license-free frequencies, but also in license-free frequency bands, specific application allowed, others not. So it is very important to know and consider, and awareness here is important. So regional regulation bodies give directives, so that is binding instructions need to be followed, regulations, rules of applications, decisions, even legally binding ones, or recommendations, green and white papers. That is good and good for understanding the backgrounds. Then you have the standardization part. You can see ANSI, IEC, ETSI, ISO, ARIP. So these are mandated to develop and maintain standards for testing conformity and products interoperability. So this is basically a group of industry people, really experts, to define standards for product testing and also for fulfilling regulation rules. So there's safe operation of devices in the ecosystem of different radio devices and different technologies. Then you have on country and national level the regulators. Here we also have frequency and spectrum management on a country level. So these are national product approval processes is defined here. So what are the rules and regulations here for product approval in the countries? Then they secure customer laws. That is very individual, depending on country. And so all the legal sites is a country-specific requirement on that. Market surveillance. So also these regulators on country level check all requirements and if they are followed, if all the products and manufacturer are following the rules here. And if not, there will be countermeasures also well defined and executed by these national regulators. And then you have manufacturers. So there's most of you basically are device makers and manufacturers. Sure, you're responsible for the product liability, the compliance responsibility. You have in your hands the product quality and a very important point, declaration of conformity. That is one of your most important tasks here within this ecosystem. So you declare the conformity. And last but not least, there are test houses, test labs, to prove your product conformity. So these test houses are not obliged to declare conformity, but they prove by measurements, following the rules of standardization schemes, and then issue test reports and measurement reports supporting you within this declaration of conformity role. So that is DEKRA, 7 layers, IMST, and many, many other labs around the world doing this conformity testing. Next slide, please. Now, let's have a look what is tested and why is tested. So, I mean, testing can happen in different product development stages. Very important is a pre-compliance testing is supporting the development phase of a product already. Because let's say if you, in the very end of a product development cycle, find out that there is some issues with keeping compliancy in line, then it's very time consuming, cost intensive. You will have also really the time to market is very important these days. And that is all a risk here if there's no pre-compliancy tested in early product stage of development. So all test labs supporting pre-compliance testing when it comes to that, reducing your time and cost while developing new products. And then we have a final product certification that is following strict rules given by the regulators and regulation schemes. That is product conformity testing, type approval, and also involving governmental and regulator rules and concerns. So that is minimizing your risk, improving the device conformity as an independent party. Test labs work on that. Yeah, what is tested? We have EMC has been tested, electromagnetic compatibility. So that is the reliability of devices within electromagnetic environments. Here it goes in both directions. You have immunity, so that is robustness in a electromagnetic environment, or you have emission. Now, so what is sent out by the device in the surrounding, disturbing others. So it goes in both directions, EMC. Then you have ERM, that is electromagnetic compatibility with a scope on radio spectrum matters. That is efficient use of radio spectrum. So not disturbing other either same radio technologies or other radio technologies in the surrounding area. And that is really ecosystem here. Different radio technology needs to work together in safe and harmonic way. Then you have health and safety. That is protecting personal hazards against electrical shock or electromagnetic hazards. So that's health and safety. Cybersecurity also, since last year already, in Europe we have this IT threats, so fraud, misuse of personal data, and that is cybersecurity. Then you have other additional testing like explosion or ingress protection. That completely depends on the device that you have and what are the requirements here. Next slide, please. Now I would like to compare a little bit the FCC and the CE, so America and Europe, a little bit comparison, and what are the differences here. Well, the rules and regulations stated here in Title 47 of CFR, and in Europe, we have the Radio Equipment Directive. So that dictates and defines the rules, how we need to proceed and what needs to be covered here. Within America, you have no self-declaration by manufacturers. So measurement reports and also in registered or approved certification labs needs to be provided here in this process. That is a little bit different to Europe, where you have self-declaration possibility and where a manufacturer is responsible and needs to issue a declaration of conformity, the DOC. You have the FRN and FCC registration number and FCC ID, which is registered amongst all product technical data like circuit diagrams, layouts, and such within the FCC database. So that is very controlled and strictly collected here. Within Europe, we don't have something like this. So this remains at manufacturers' properties. As I said, you have TCB, the telecommunication certified body, FCC approved certification labs. Within Europe, that can be different labs. Most of the labs that are accredited, they have this laboratory accreditation in 17025, but they are not somewhere listed within the European or authorization or regulatory bodies. Then you have within the US, you have need for local representative. That is a little bit a legal reason. So if something went wrong with the product, there needs to be a person in charge that can be reached within the US. In the EU, it's not necessary to have a local representative. And as I said, there's also one little bit difference in the approach of EMC testing. In the US, it's only emission testing, which is needed. Within the EU, it goes both direction. As I said earlier, when testing, you have emission and immunity or susceptibility testing when it comes to EMC testing, at least. Next slide, please. Now, this is very helpful for common issues that you have as manufacturer, device maker, product changes or new versions, or you might have new components or change in suppliers. And so within FCC policy, you have a possibility of permissive change. And then it depends on what kind of change you have. You can have a class 1 change. There is a component change that has no impact on RF, no impact on radio behavior of the device. No? And there's no certification testing required. So just the documents and the technical data needs to be updated, but no other processes involved. Then you have a class 2 permissive change, and that is where you change RF relevant things. So it can be antenna, RF power, filter, modulation can be changed. So and there is a certification testing in a registered FCC registered and authorized lab required. So and after that, antenna change is being completed with class 2 change. Then you have a class 3 that is really a major change. For instance, you change your whole radio module or maybe even the print of the radio module. And also that requires certification testing in a lab. Another kind of change is a change in FCC ID. That is when, let's say, the brand name of the product is changed or the company name has changed. So this has a more legal rather than technical background and so-called change in FCC ID. So that needs to be followed, and then you can change either product name or company name. That happens from time to time. In Europe, it's a little bit easy, I would say. You have, as a manufacturer, once any change take place, you are in charge of performing a risk assessment. So you decide on certain criteria, what is impact of my change component, or module or antenna, and then you need to decide how to maintain and prove the conformity of the product. Either you do testing on your own or take a lab for testing, and then you update the declaration of conformity. So it's a little bit less paperwork compared to FCC. Next slide, please. Important for product manufacturers. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind entering this problematic here. We have lots of customers coming to us saying, we want a global certification for our product. And this is very tricky. As you have seen just now and before, you have different rules and different regions, different countries with different requirements. So make a list, a country list where you aim for and where the product is going to be launched, and then go to the test lab and say, and then we can find out what kind of country-specific or regional requirements need to be applied and tests need to be followed. Use a pre-certified radio solutions, modules, or reference antennas, making life easy, because the test lab then can refer on the module manufacturer's testing and reports. So then you have so-called restricted testing when it comes to at least radio testing. Be aware of regulatory requirements and country-specific requirements, not missing any important step and technical detail there. Pre-compliance testing, make use of this while product development phase, saving time and cost, securing product conformity in a very early stage. Country-specific user manual requirements. It's not just the language. There's many things need to be considered. Country-specific product labels, country-specific regulations like local representative in some countries, and even limited validity of a certification in countries. So after 5 years, maybe you need to run through the procedure again. Be aware of that from the beginning, and consult experts like laboratories for support. Next slide, please. Yeah, finally, common pitfalls. What goes wrong and what is really a big issue for most of the customers that we have. Consider compliancy while designing a product already. I know everyone is up to performance features, and that needs to work fine. But the compliance of product according to regulatory rules, that is most of the times, let's say, somewhere in behind, and it's really tricky and difficult if there are issues when the product is already in field. So while designing product, take this into consideration already. Performance tests do not ensure compliance. Quality testing is not necessarily compliance. So there is a little bit of differences here, and that is really important to consider. Another thing is hardware and software combinations with your product must remain compliant all time. So all combinations, and that is your responsibility. So include that in testing phase, and also consult laboratories if you don't know how to handle these requirements or testings. So that really needs to be considered. And the other thing is test what is actually shipped. Prototype testing, yeah, it's nice, but once there's a housing, there is a final design and print and layout, your product may behave completely different. Maybe it's even better, but maybe it's even worse. But so there's really a big rule. Take what is really issued to the market also for compliance testing to the lab. Yeah, and approval time is very often underestimated. We, as labs, it may take some weeks for testing. Special also country-specific approval takes weeks sometimes, and that needs to be considered in your project plan or time to market plan as well. Yeah, test early, fix early. Yeah, save cost by that. Yeah, thank you. Next slide. Okay, now I would like to hand over to Bureau Veritas 7 Layers, Dieter Süthoff and Thorsten Lohoff. Thank you.
Hi, thanks Jens for handing over. Before Dieter starts with the more technical session, I would like to give a brief introduction of Bureau Veritas or 7 Layers as an organization. So sometimes a bit confusing, but 7 Layers is maybe more known in the radio world, but we are part of the Bureau Veritas group for more than 10 years now. And Bureau Veritas as an organization has more than 85,000 employees worldwide and covers a lot of different certification aspects and has entities all over the world. But since this focus here is now on LoRa, and Dieter's going to explain a bit more on his specific part, I would like to focus on the entities we have in Germany, which are more in our range here in Europe. And therefore, I'll give a brief overview about what each location can do. So next slide, please. So in Germany, we have 5 entities in Hamburg, Schwerin, Nuremberg, Türkheim, and Rating. So Rating is what we understand, what is still 7 Layers. It's still the 7 Layers GmbH, and the other entities are under the same organization in Bureau Veritas. So Hamburg is traditionally focusing on testing of materials like Rose Reach, mechanical tests, and also some kind of cloth testing, which is out of our business unit, but in fact covered in this location, as well as in Schwerin, which is more medical and chemical oriented, which has a more import character. So our location in Türkheim, which is focusing very much on safety testing and everything related to this, includes ATEX, explosion testing, as well as radio IMST, new energy, and environmental testing as well. So now coming to Rating, this is where I'm located, as well as Dieter, who will continue after my handover. So Rating was traditionally known as 7 Layers, and we are still the 7 Layers GmbH. So therefore, our focus was for many years, and it still is, on radio certification and everything around radio certification. This includes typically IMST testing, conformance testing for different technologies, as well as tests and software testing for cellular devices and other technologies. What is new is the cybersecurity, which is coming more and more to mandatory requirement in many markets. And we traditionally have a very big team that deals with the global certification of devices, means all the countries worldwide, radio, IMST, and everything required. And we deal with it due to our many BV entities all over the world. Yeah, so that's it to the brief overview about BV, especially in Germany. And I'd like now to hand over to Dieter to the technical part of the presentation. And yeah, thanks so far. And Dieter, please move on.
Hello. Thank you, Thorsten. My name is Dieter Süthoff. Welcome to this webinar. May I introduce myself shortly. I am RF engineer at 7 Layers and responsible for our RF performance over-the-air lab called OTA Lab in Ratingen, Germany. Our OTA Lab is a CTA accredited lab, and we are also conform to DIN ISO 17025. Besides the LoRa RF performance testing, which is part of my work, I have also other tasks and responsibilities. These are mainly RF performance testing also for other technologies like cellular technologies, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, or other, for example, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, ESM, and of course LoRa and so on. We are testing different types of end devices, for example, IoT devices, meter devices, tracker, laptops, watches, phones, and we test devices in different scenarios. For example, in free space, in torque position, at human head, at phantoms with hand and wrist or body phantoms. For LoRa RF performance testing, the free space scenario is the standardized scenario. In case of need, besides the OTA scope, we also offer additional RF consulting services for our customers. Now I come to the first slide. I would like to give an impression from the RF performance testing, in particular real-world scenarios. In the table on this slide, you can see example test results. You heard already from the previous speakers about the measurement technologies, how to test in a laboratory environment the RF performance, like the total radiated power and the total radiated sensitivity. In this table, you can see in the first row results for radiated power, ERP, ERP, and TRP. This example results for a good performant LoRa end device for the European market. Because the end device antenna is in this example supplied with about 40 dBm power, we can see on the TRP values that the device is radiating on different frequencies with more than 12 dBm. That means we have about 2 dB efficiency on this antenna. Only 2 dB loss between power supply and radiated power. The ERP and ERP values documented on this first line shows the beam radiation in the best room direction of the IoT. If the device is radiating with the beam mainly in one room direction, this value can be higher than the antenna supplied power, because the ERP value represents the equivalent isotropic radiation power. In this case, we have a so-called positive peak gain on the antenna. In the mid row of the table, you can find EES results. This is the effective isotropic sensitivity of the end device, which is correspond to the ERP value. Tested in the same best room direction from the direction of the IoT. The radiated pattern of the DOT is reciprocal in receiving and transmitting direction. To calculate the total radiated sensitivity, the EES value must be reduced by the amount of antenna directivity. Because the end device receiver performance can reach conducted sensitivity down to -140 dBm, in this example, the performance also reach radiated about 137 dBm. This is an example for a good value. The small table on the right side in this slide shows an example test result for a not good performing device. ERP, TRP values with 5.4, 3.3, 2.4 dBm. You see here a degradation of about 10 dB antenna radiation performance. And the minus 104.5 dBm ES value, a degradation of about 30 dB concerning receiving performance. The consequence for such an end device with such degradation is a clearly reduced transmission and reception range to the conducted LoRa station. Connection interruption is likely the consequent. Now I would like to talk about the root cause for such RF performance loss. In general, two main reasons are possible. First reason, the antenna is not good matched. The efficiency of the antenna is not good enough. The second reason, the receiver is disturbed. Emission from the device itself on the receiving frequency happened. Only the radiated receiving, not the radiated performance of the device is reduced then. It is a so-called self-interferer effect in this case. What is the reason for self-interferer? It is the spurious emission on the frequency of the receiver comes from the tested end device itself. These are, in the most cases, digital rectangular signals from the processor, from the memory or display or DC-DC converter or other components of the device. The harmonic of these rectangular signals delivers the RF energy on the LoRa receiving frequency. The condition for this unwanted energy from the test device to the radiated is the cable runs unshielded in the layout or other unshielded wiring. On this slide, the example picture show you see measures to reduce the unwanted interferer. Measures are, for example, good layout, good filtering, good cable routing. That are solutions to reduce the self-interferer effect. To prevent self-interferer, in general, a good IMST design is necessary. Similar like for the regular EMI radiated spurious emission, the device must fulfill. Keep in mind, the LoRa receiver is a very sensitive. It receives and demodulates signals down to a level of minus 140 dBm. For regular radiated emission tests, limits are in a range of minus 30 dBm and measurement results are in a range of minus 60 dBm. This is the reason why you cannot see potential self-interferer emissions in results where you measure the radiated spurious emissions. So now I come to the next slide. Just a moment. You remember, in general, the reason for root causes of RF performance loss are not good antenna matching, or the efficiency of antenna is not good enough. Radiated and receiving performance reduced in similar amount when the antenna matching is not good enough or the efficiency of the antenna is not good enough. That means if the TRP value is already not good performing, the root cause is likely the antenna performance. The first recommended further investigation to find the reason for not reaching TRP targets is testing the antenna matching with the network analyzer. With this test technique, the device antenna is supplied with a generator signal on the antenna input. On the same line, the reflected energy coming back from the antenna is measured. A diagram over the frequency range shows how good the antenna is matched. You can see in the example result, test result in the slide, on the picture, such a test. It shows on what frequency the resonance frequency of the antenna can be found and what bandwidth the antenna is capable to work and how much energy the antenna is reflected back to the supply. If the matching in the example is close to 0 dB, all energy is reflected and the antenna is not radiating. If it is, for example, 10 dB or better, minus 10 dB or better, the RF energy is not reflecting in that way anymore and hopefully is radiating all the power. That is a good wanted result then. It is important to check built-in antenna if it is working on the right resonant frequencies. The direct environment of the antenna have an influence to the resonance frequencies. For example, plastic near the antenna is shifting the resonance frequencies to lower frequencies. Matching circuits or antenna design itself can be used to tune the antenna to the right wanted frequency. Please take care. If you build in your product an on the market available commercial antenna, then often the environment of the antenna change the antenna matching and efficiency. The antenna product data sheet that demonstrates a good antenna matching and efficiency is not reaching the value anymore with the built-in antenna in the product. But also a good matching of the antenna is not guarantee for overall good efficiency of the antenna. Second phenomenon for loss of antenna performance is that the energy is lost in the device and is not radiating, is absorbing, for example, in plastic or on components like coils or other material near the antenna. These losses you can only see in the antenna effective measurements, not in the matching of the antenna. How much energy is really radiating? To calculate the efficiency, exactly the TRP measurement is used for. We see that the measurement of TRP TIS and TIS, the radiated power and the sensitivity is very important to check if your device is good and stable, capable for a LoRa link. Measurement on wired basis and investigation of data sheets for antennas is telling not every time the whole truth. Thank you for your attention. Now let's move to the question and answer.
Hi, everybody again. Do we have any questions? You could also feel free to send it to us after the webinar. As we come to the end of today's webinar, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our expert speakers from IMST, DEKRA, and 7 Layers for sharing their valuable insights, technical expertise, and practical perspectives. Your contributions have helped make this session extremely informative and engaging. I would also like to thank all the participants for taking the time to join us today. I would request all of you to take the survey, which will pop up on your screen after the webinar, or actually now, and provide us your valuable feedback. We would really appreciate it. We truly hope that the information shared today was useful and that you were able to gain practical insights that will help in your ongoing and future projects. Thank you so much.